Super Week coverage here on 1620 The Zone is presented by Moose Roofing and OSI Oakland. We'll track down McKenzie Nelson here in just 1 second. I think we might have some phone issues. I don't know if you guys can see. No, we have the slate up, so I don't think you can see Josh. But the way he's looking at all of his screens, phones, computers, things like that, it's disconcerting. It's disconcerting. So we're gonna have Josh work on that. Josh, you go ahead and chime in whenever you have whenever you got an update for us on that one. I got an email earlier from Shane on the Equitable Bank inbox when we were talking about the refs and the Chiefs. I hate the Chiefs. I'm a Raiders fan. And the talk of conspiracy theories between the NFL, the refs, and the Chiefs is just dumb. Pro sports are rigged talk as it is as valid as the earth is flat. Okay, thank God you said that, because I thought you were going to say, oh, that part's valid, though. No. I don't know what started this or why we got on that train, but it is a absolutely commonplace phrase that you hear from sports fans these days. The games are rigged anyway, so why do I care? Game's rigged. Or even from the people that like have long believed and held the belief that sports aren't rigged, and they'll see one thing and they'll be like, that's the kind of thing that really makes me believe that sports are rigged. It's such a stupid conversation. It should not continue to be perpetuated in the sports community. So yes, thank you for sending that email, Shane. We appreciate it. By the way, I got a YouTube comment earlier from Andy. I know Andy lives in the Arizona area. He had this comment. We were talking about Nebraska baseball is making their trip to Arizona next week. He said, FYI, for anyone coming to Scottsdale for Nebraska baseball, that Saturday outside the stadium is the largest Arizona beer festival of the year. Hello. Nebraska is playing Vanderbilt that afternoon at 7, or that evening at 7. And apparently that same afternoon, the Arizona's largest beer festival is happening. So if you need an extra incentive to go to Arizona for Nebraska baseball, then you have it. All right. Once again, Super Week coverage this week presented by Moose Roofing and OSI Oakland. And we are switching over now. Thank you, Josh, Josh looks like he's been under the hood all day. Like, it's been a long day. We're getting some stuff figured out over here.
I'm not allowed to say anything.
Thank you, Josh, for putting it all together, as we're now joined on the hotline by McKenzie Nelson, KSHB in Kansas City, who's now becoming a recurring guest on this show. Hi, McKenzie. How are you?
That's so true. I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys.
What's the vibe right now? You sounds like there's some commotion going on. Where are we at?
I am in the convention center where Radio Row is and the Super Bowl experience. So I'm kind of in between the two. There's a lot going on. Fans are going to be coming in here soon.
So does it ever, has it gotten old yet? Does it ever get old?
No, I don't think I can say it gets old. It's still fun. It's still a lot of work, but it's exciting. I mean, as busy as it is at the Super Bowl, being here for a week covering it, I mean, it really is amazing that I've had the opportunity to do this 3 times now.
It's incredible. How about from the Chiefs side of things? And I know, they want to try and keep it relatively low key, before the Super Bowl starts.
Sure.
But they're veterans and they've been at the Super Bowl a lot, so they kind of know what to expect. But what's the vibe that you've gotten from them this week and their level of preparedness for this one?
I think they're ready for this one for sure. I think this one might mean a little bit more to them than maybe the previous ones, just because they have so many guys on this team that they would love to win a Super Bowl for. I'm just thinking of guys like DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown. But it's very business as usual. It doesn't seem like there's any extra excitement. It honestly feels like it's just, I don't know, like a Week 11 game. It does not feel like we are talking to the Chiefs at the Super Bowl, because nothing about their media availability this week has changed. I mean, they're saying the same things that we've heard all season long.
When when do you think internally, or maybe they've expressed this week, when do you think this idea of winning a three-peat came up with them, and how attached have they been to? I mean, obviously it starts probably the second after you win your second Super Bowl in a row, but like it feels like they're really locked into this idea of being the team that does this for the first time. How much have you heard that chatter about that this week, and their sort of mindset toward it being historic?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's what everyone's talking about, right? Like they have a chance to make history while the Eagles have a chance to, have some revenge from 2 seasons ago. But I mean, I think since Patrick Mahomes said this at the Super Bowl parade last year, he was like, we're going to bring the playoffs back to Kansas City. It's going to run through Arrowhead and we are going to go to the Super Bowl again. We're going to win 3 in a row. And I think everybody just like latched onto that idea and they're like, okay, yep, we're going to do it. And that has been the goal, but it's something they don't talk about. Like you don't hear them talking about, oh, we have a chance to make history unless you bring it up and you ask them like a question surrounding a three-peat. And it was funny the other day, Andy Reid was like, I don't ever use the term three-peat unless you guys are using it at the media. And so it was just funny. Like, it's like they know it, but they don't have to talk about it. Everyone's just on the same page, which I think is pretty cool, pretty interesting too, though, because it seems that everyone outside of the Chiefs organization is talking about a three-peat, but I don't know if they're actually using that term in the locker room or at their media availabilities.
We were just talking about this idea that it's been sort of commonplace for them to be here, and it certainly has. How does that square up with the idea that they've kind of recreated themselves on the fly here a little bit? It's still the same cast of characters. It's still Reed, Mahomes, and Travis Kelce, but it is a completely different football team than it was 2 years ago, just in terms of how they play. Like, is there any sense of newness from that part of it and the way that they've gotten to this point this year compared to how they did it last year or 2 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just all the injuries that the Chiefs have dealt with all season long. It felt like it was just one guy going down after another, and they had to overcome that adversity. And then I think the biggest thing is you don't see that like high-powered offense that the Chiefs were having to put up years ago because they had, a defense that was a little bit of a liability. But now with Steve Spagnuolo, they've got this great defense that, didn't allow over 100 yards rushing all season long. And they've really turned things around. So the Chiefs offense isn't having to go put up, so many points to remain in a game. And I think just this season alone, they really showed that through these 1-score games, like, no matter how the game is going, they're going to get it done somehow, some way. They keep finding ways to win. But I also think they've relied so much more on Kareem Hunt since he came back to Kansas City, and they have utilized him the way that they should. And then when you've got so many different dynamic receivers, I mean, you can really do a whole lot, but I just think that they're not having to rely on, number one, the deep ball, but also putting up so many points on offense because they can actually rely on their defense. They can count on them to get a stop or, to put up some points themselves. So I think that's really the biggest difference that I see is you just have a completely different defense that is just performing at the highest level.
Well, and that gives, like you said there, it gives your offense the ability to, they don't have to go out and score X amount of points to win the game. It's not them, but you still have Patrick Mahomes. And like what I'm so interested in them is like there's obviously a great defense and you have Mahomes, but they just plug these different players in, and whether it's Samaje Perine clinching the Bills game, or Kareem Hunt doing what he's doing, or any of the cast of wide receivers that they've had out there, like these are all like role players in the NFL, but they turn into stars in the Chiefs offense, it seems.
I think it's the coaching staff, honestly. I mean, exactly what you're saying is they know how to use these guys and find the right spot for them to find that success. And I think that's the biggest thing because, I mean, you just said it. There's so many playmakers on the team, but Andy Reid, Matt Nagy, Steve Spagnuolo, they know when to bring these guys in for certain situations. And I think that's the biggest thing is just the coaching of, knowing the schemes, knowing how they want to run an offense, and then being able to kind of plug and play these guys where they're going to have that success. Because when you look at like the wide receiver room, for example, like you have so many different guys that can do different things. And I think Andy Reid just knows how to utilize them. And I think that's why that the Chiefs offense can have success in some of these, critical, crucial moments.
McKenzie, do you like the way we talk about the Chiefs is, it's a lot of Chiefs fans here in Omaha, but the way the NFL talks about the Chiefs and what we just sort of laid out there which is they have these great players and the great coaching staff and the coaches are going to put them in great positions, and then they have these recurring cast of other guys that come in and make clutch plays. It's demoralizing to the rest of the NFL. And it feels like it's never going to end. Do you hear that conversation or feel that conversation in Kansas City? And what is like the Chiefs' side reaction to that idea?
I mean, I think the Chiefs are the most hated team in the NFL now, just because of the success they've had. I mean, 5 Super Bowls in 6 seasons is insane to think about. And so, I mean, I think the Chiefs and Chiefs Kingdom are just embracing this like villain mentality of like, okay, everybody hates us and we're going to use that as motivation. Because I was thinking about back to the Miami Super Bowl back in 2020, and everybody was cheering on the Chiefs, it seemed like, because it was a new team in the Super Bowl. They hadn't been in so long. And now it's like the complete opposite. People don't want to see the Chiefs win. Everybody hates them because they have so much success. Or you have this whole the ref talk of, oh, they're getting calls and, things like that. And so, I don't know. I think it's just kind of comical at this point. I don't think the Chiefs really pay any attention to that. I'm sure they know they're hated, and they probably use that, possibly as motivation in the locker room. But I think the biggest thing is, seeing Chiefs Kingdom react to some of these things on social media that other fan bases are saying. I just think all of it's pretty comical.
The refs thing, before we get you out of here, I mean, it's something that we've talked about a lot on this show throughout this week, and how the conversation is sort of taken over. Like, do you feel that being around all the media events this week, and how much that comes up? Does it feel like it's a bit of a cloud hanging over this thing? Just the topic of it, not the truth to it, if there is any, which there's not. But just the conversation regarding it, it feels like it's always there.
Oh, for sure. I feel like every day at, media availability, even this morning, for example, Andy Reid, it was his last day of media availability, and he was asked, like, does this ref talk minimize, the success? So if the Chiefs go out and win on Sunday and people say, oh, they got the refs help, this, that, and the other, does that make that win any less to, the Chiefs in their eyes? And what does Andy Reid think about, everybody else in the league, these fans saying that, the Chiefs are getting calls when they shouldn't? And Andy Reid gave a great response, and he was pretty candid. He's like, they're doing the best job that they can. They're human. They're out there, and I don't always agree with the calls. He's like, but to say that they're like blatantly making calls for the Chiefs is insulting. And he said it's not true. And so I think all the guys that have been asked this too throughout the week, I believe, Mahomes was asked about it, Travis Kelce was asked about it. We've asked the guys at the breakout sessions. They hear it and they know it's being said. But again, it's just something where it's like, if you're outside of Chiefs Kingdom and you think that's why the Chiefs are having success, you're wrong. Because look at, we just talked about all the different guys they have on this team, the coaches, the veterans they have on the team. They know how to get back here. They know how to win. And that's what matters. And if you're saying the refs got them here, I mean, that's just a kind of a comical, thing to be saying is, oh, the Chiefs don't have a lot of, great players to be able to get them to this point. They think it's the refs and only the refs. I mean, that's just insane.
Yep. McKenzie Nelson, KSHB in Kansas City. McKenzie, thank you for our yearly chat. We'll do it again next year. Thanks for taking a few minutes for us. See you later.
Yeah. Same time next year. I'll talk to you then.
All right. That's McKenzie Nelson, KSHB in Kansas City. Kansas City. Isn't it like, if they win this one the way that they're doing it, defense, but still Mahomes and still Andy Reid, and it's still the Chiefs. But they've recreated themselves. Am I wrong to say that it would be? I mean, it'd be the third in a row, so it would certainly be this way. But the word I used was demoralizing. It just feels helpless almost for the rest of the NFL. Not that they're incapable of winning a championship, but just the Chief presence is just going to be there until further notice. Somebody commented this while we were talking there. It does sound a lot like how we talked about the Patriots. Mm-hmm. It's just they're always going to be there, and you're always going to have to deal with them. And when you get your shot, you better take it. Mm-hmm. But honestly, I think it's even worse at this stage. it's worse than what the Patriots was. It's harder for the rest of the NFL than what the Patriots were because the Chiefs they are in the AFC Championship game every year. They are in the Super Bowl most years, and they win the Super Bowl most of the time when they get there. If they win this one,
Yeah,
right? It's so it feels so. If they win this one the way that they're doing it, it would feel helpless, I think, for the rest of the NFL.
especially from the standpoint of they beat Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen in that order to get to the Super Bowl the last 3 years. So it's not like,
Yeah, they didn't
help
get
us, Josh Allen, you're our only
Yeah.
hope. Like every quarterback that's, obviously, Joe Burrow beat Patrick Mahomes the year before that, but there isn't like the one quarterback that you're like, well, that guy hasn't had a crack. If that guy can just get his shot, he'll clearly, if he gets a team around him, he'll blow past the Chiefs.
I think that's a really
yeah.
good way to put it too. Like until the new flashy quarterback comes out, I want to see this guy and see what happens.
Yeah. One of those,
or like maybe
really-
maybe like the Bears get their act together or something like that. They're like, oh, Caleb, he could be the one, but that's in the NFC.
like the Bengals, Ravens, and Bills the last 5 years have
They've all had multiple shots.
They've had multiple shots. They've amassed talent on their rosters and gotten better each offseason, and it hasn't worked.
And there hasn't been much with those teams. Cincinnati has regressed on the defensive end, horrendously, which led to them not being in the playoffs this year. But like Baltimore and Buffalo, there's been a whole lot of recreation with them, right? They theoretically should be, like you said, Josh, getting better and building upon success year after year. And they are. Like the Ravens got Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
And that's not the one thing. There's many others besides that. So like those teams added and rearmed themselves for another shot at the Chiefs. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, like, they never disarmed, but they changed guns, like they changed.
Oh, this one ran out of bullets. I'll throw it on the ground. I'll
Right.
pick up another one.
And all while at the same time, they still held everybody off. They got the quickest hand in the West.
Like, it's not even a situation where, oh, it's very obvious how to beat this team. If we just go get a edge rusher to pressure Patrick Mahomes, all our problems will be solved. Like if we just go get a shutdown corner, Pat won't be able to do any. Like, I don't even really know how to beat them.
There is no formula because they've won in so many different ways now. That's what makes it, like, what do we always say with college basketball teams? What you want to see going into the NCAA tournament from like a national championship contending team, or a team that you want to get to the Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight or whatever. It's like they got to be able to win games in different ways.
Yeah.
These guys can win any type of game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they beat Buffalo in a 30s game last week.
They hadn't done that.
I know.
They hadn't scored in the 30s.
Yeah. So you could have said beforehand, they can't win if Buffalo gets to 30, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They can't win they can't win if this game becomes a shootout. If this game becomes like a back and forth, they can't beat Buffalo in that. Well,
30 isn't even a shootout in my mind. That's like a normal NFL game a lot of the time.
But I mean, they obviously want to keep it low. They want to keep it low mid-20s. But would you be surprised if they beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl 38-35? Again, no. I guess that was a score last time, wasn't it?
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
They just randomly came up with that number?
Wasn't it 38-35 and when they played 2 years ago? Yeah, I randomly, because it was in the upper 30s and then it was a normal score, so 38-35.
Yeah, you're right.
Would you be surprised if they won that exact game?
I mean, I guess if it was the exact same score, yes.
That would be surprising because it was the
that.
same. But
no.
The general idea.
Right. 35-32, no, I wouldn't be surprised.
So if you're a divisional Chiefs fan, if you're Mike Stibbs, if you are
hi Mike,
any Denver Broncos fans or
hi Bruns,
Raiders, whatever, Bills, Ravens, you're probably listening to this like, damn.
What do you do? I guess you just hope that they bench their starters and you can shut them out.
You wait for them to screw up. You climb back up that hill again, and you better be ready to pounce when they do. because that has not happened yet.
How'd they lose that one game this year? How'd the Bills beat them?
Wasn't it like a blow? Wasn't it like 30 something to 10?
30-21.
30-21. Yeah. But nobody thought anything of it at the time because it was just like, oh yeah, that makes sense. The regular season, whatever.
You're still going through Arrowhead.
There was a lot less this year of the Chiefs are done. Remember when we were doing the Chiefs are done thing last year?
Yeah.
There was a lot more this year of like, yeah, they don't look that good, but it don't matter
But
anymore.
I'm not betting against them.
Yep. And so that turns into, I'm telling you, man, that turns into a mental thing. That turns into a mental advantage when you're playing Buffalo, when you're playing Baltimore, when you're playing Cincinnati, when you're playing anybody in your division. Can it work that way against Philly? Who some are arguing that they are the most confident team in the NFL because they're the most Italian team in the NFL.
Hell yeah.
We'll find out. That is our Super Week coverage for today, presented by Moose Roofing and OSI Oakland. Appreciate them coming along with us for this week. We'll be back after this on 1620 The Zone.
Super Week on 1620 The Zone is powered by Moose Roofing and OSI Oakland.